It's you versus you every day. Keep going. Don't have the mentality of like, oh, maybe tomorrow. Like, just do it.
She takes a fat dab and gets after it. That's not a metaphor. That's her pre-workout. I'm Jason Reposa, and after 25 years in tech and cannabis, I host High Functioning to show what actually works. Today's guest is Cam Nero-Clark, buyer for Buds Goods and Provisions in Massachusetts, wholesale sales in New Jersey, and newly minted OCB Pro Figure Bodybuilder. She built her physique one 4 a.m. gym session at a time and still finds room to manage menus, vendors, and 2 markets.
A lot of the cultivators, because of how the testing parameters are, like they're waiting to test their material until they know it's going to be sold. And if they're sustainable, you can get an additional 6 months added onto that COA.
We get into bodybuilding discipline, how cannabis fits recovery, and what it takes to build menus that move.
Like keep the consistency and the discipline, because sometimes the motivation is going to be low, but as long as you have the discipline and consistency, you can keep pushing through.
This is running, recovery, and reality. Let's dive in. Chew, wait, hope. Hard pass. Pocket uses micro and nano emulsification, so effects show up in about a quarter hour. It's the gummy experience without the gummy lag. Pocket your chill and keep moving.
So I am Cam Nero-Clark. I am stepping back into the purchasing manager role for both Massachusetts and New Jersey for Buds Goods. And in my spare time, I am a NASM certified personal trainer and an OCB Pro Figure Bodybuilder as of October.
That's fantastic. I love to hear it. And so we've been connected for a little bit, and I always knew you were jacked, but when I saw the photo, I was like, oh my gosh, she's ripped.
Sleeper body.
Exactly. Well, that's, you can wear the baggy clothes or whatever. You don't show people, right? That's an old bodybuilding trick. And so I put on the XL sometimes and get a little bit bulky just so people don't like get a sneak peek. You know what I mean? Anyways, but we were just talking before this about drinks and how many drinks. So you're a 3-drink.
First drink minimum. I usually carry around a gallon of water. I do consume about a gallon a day. I cut it back today and only have like my big pull in spring. And then I typically have my energy drink of choice. I like C4. C4, I know it's so bad. C4, I love Ghost. And then I typically also have like a protein type drink with me. I have about like 2 to 3 protein shakes a day, to be honest.
Yeah, we're going to get into that, nutrition and stuff like that, because I feel like that's one of those things that is unique to, like, there's a unique approach to the bodybuilding aspect versus like an everyday like athlete perspective. Everybody needs protein, of course, but so into the 3 drinks, like I totally am the same way. So when I'm at home, like I will have either a smoothie, my water bottle, plus like something like a little sparkly, and then I just like mix them all together in a sense. Like in my belly gets mixed up. So immediately I want to talk about the bodybuilding stuff because that is just super fascinating to me. I used to, my memory gets a little hazy sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, in my early 20s, maybe my teens, late teens, I was like really thinking about becoming a bodybuilder. Probably wasn't even close. The amount of dedication you need to be able to accomplish something like that is immense. Like, where did that come from? Have you always been in bodybuilding?
So I just got into bodybuilding back in January, but fitness wise, like I have always been fit. I played softball growing up. So I played soccer. I played softball in college for 3.5 years. And then soccer I did it my last year of college just because they needed some extra people. And I played when I was younger, but back in 5th grade, like I broke my leg. I had to get 2 screws put into my ankle.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, it's a
serious break.
Yeah, but honestly, 2 days before summer vacation too. So that was a fun summer.
Getting to say it up, but
yeah, all laid up. And so I had stepped away from soccer, really focused on softball. But after college, I kind of like dropped off. Like, you're a washed up athlete, man. Like, but what are you kind of trying to figure out what I want to do? And back about 3 years now, which is honestly crazy, time is flying, but 3 years ago, I've always suffered with insomnia. College is where it was like the worst, and leading into out of college for like, I was only getting like 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night.
Wow.
Very bad. Cannabis like did help with that, but I wouldn't stay asleep. I would wake up around like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, boom, I'm up. I can't fall back asleep.
You're just up.
Up.
High Functioning isn't your average cannabis podcast. It's where business, wellness, and culture collide with honest convos from people actually doing the work. Tap in at High Functioning Show and hit subscribe so you don't miss a drop. Now, back to the episode. What would you do in those situations?
So doom scroll, man.
Just in bed, be like,
Scrolling and then
yeah, depending on what news cycle we were in, you had probably plenty to doom scroll over.
yeah, for sure.
And so in like growing up athletic, went to college even for softball. Do you want to shout out any school or anything like that?
Go AMCATs, Memoria College. Live in Paxton, Massachusetts. Little small capital.
Are you originally from Massachusetts as well?
Born and raised Worcester, Massachusetts.
In Worcester. Fun.
Oh yeah.
So Bud's Worcester is like a special home for you, in a sense?
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bud's used to be Gold Star Boulevard Diner, and I actually ate there all the time with my dad and my little sister. And it's like definitely crazy, like walking over to the diner side. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe like I used to sit in the booth and it's like all gutted now and everything. And it's just like how it's evolved into Bud.
So is it, so they left, so I haven't been to the Worcester store actually, so I don't know that store. So like, is it like a shell of a diner in a sense too?
Yeah, exactly. So
they kept the Gold Star side of it a little bit.
Yeah, so diner type themed. We have our printed menus, which are like you open up like a diner menu and it has like the back and the front on there. And our graphic designer and visual specialist, Kaylee, always updates it so our customers can see the new things that are on there and everything. But definitely kept on with the diner theater.
And so after college, you already mentioned this, it kind of drops off immediately.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, you would, it's funny because I think, even my kids have like because they're teenagers, have like a warped sense of like the world right now where they're just like, I'm always going to be fit and I'm always working out and sports is everything. And then, all this other stuff. And then at some point, I always have to remind them, and this is a quote from my brother-in-law, actually, who was a basketball coach. He would always say, is like, there's nobody from Medway that's ever made the NBA. So you all need to like relax. It's not like do or die here. You know what I mean? And so I'm always instilling upon my kids, like, well, what's next after that? Yeah, I know you love sports right now and you perform really well and, in different sports, but at some point, what comes next? Now you brought it to the college level.
Yeah.
Right.
I was lucky, very lucky.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I guess, after college is, this insomnia is still there. So instead of doom scrolling, would you get up and go to the gym then? Or are you just like...
Where the transition happened about 3 years ago, I was like fed up with it. I was like, I need to do something with this time. I'm already awake. And me and my husband together, we were like, let's just start going to the gym. He played football and lacrosse in college, and like both washed up athletes want us to get back into the fitness, do something to move our bodies.
That's funny. I think washed up athletes is... that's a funny reference because I think of that. I'm like, yeah, I get that. I prefer weekend warrior. Okay. You know what I mean? Like a little more positive spin on that because there's a lot of us out there who are just like athletic-ish. Maybe they, because I did a lot of track was my big sport in high school. I did do a little bit in college at WPI, but it was like track was kind of like the big thing for me. Like I really just enjoyed it. And so I remember distinctly, I was probably in my early 20s, a few years after college, haven't thrown anything in forever because I was like discus and all kinds of fun stuff. And I remember being like, I could probably run like a sub, 55, maybe a 54-second 400 meter. And I was like thinking now, I'm like, I was out of my mind. There's zero, I probably wouldn't even break a minute. You know what I mean? Like today I couldn't break a minute and I'm like in decent shape. So I always think back and reflect back on that kind of like washed up side to be like, yeah, I was like so fit. I was doing these things all the time. Then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, that's a different life as a lifetime ago at this point, Do you still suffer from insomnia?
A little bit. Definitely not how I used to. I average about like 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night now. On the weekends, I can get upwards of like 7 to 8. Typically, like still for whatever reason at like 2:30 in the morning, I have like a little awake episode and it takes about like 30 to 45 minutes to fall back asleep. but nothing like how it used to be. It was rough. Like,
What was the train? What happened? What was?
going to the gym in the morning and starting my days like that, I noticed I finally had a lot more energy during the day. And by the end of the day, after dinner and like 8 o'clock, I'm gassed. I'm just ready for bed. I'm done. And honestly, like I go to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock every single night.
It's fantastic. Yeah, and I do want to get into that side of it. So, beginning of the year, you decided to go into bodybuilding. What was the mental, like, what thought made you think of go into bodybuilding?
So honestly, one of our buds, Mary Lou, she works over in the Abington store. I post a lot on Instagram about my fitness, like being in the gym every morning. She's like, Cam, you just need to compete. Do it. Compete.
Mary
Like,
Lou, shout out Mary Lou.
shout out Mary Lou, honestly, because like if it wasn't for her saying like give it a shot, I probably would have never given it a shot. And then I was talking to Cortland over at Jeter
Yeah.
about like I'm looking for a coach and like I want to get into
He's
the
big into
yeah, he's big into the gym and he actually used to do bodybuilding as well. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, do you know of any coaches? And he actually hooked me up with my first coach, and the rest is history there. I will say when I moved down to New Jersey back in May, I did move in with a team, Go Team Nonstop, and met my new coach David down there and transitioned with him into my actual prep phase to get ready for my shows.
I think that's a common misconception of people when they're looking at somebody on the stage of bodybuilding. Yeah, there's prep work, but like you don't stay ripped 100% of the time all the time.
For sure.
And I feel like that's also, being a father of 2 girls, it's like they see the image of these perfect models everywhere and they're just like, oh, I have to be like that. And it's like, no, that's like one slice of a moment in time where they look like this, and the rest of the time they look like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, so when it comes to the bodybuilding side, like what's a typical day, not prep day, but like what's your typical day? Like now you already did a show, right? And so now that you're finished the show, like you're up in the morning, what do you do?
So up in the morning, I still am hitting my cardio. Right now, I'm in a reverse phase to get back to that healthy, sustainable weight. And
Oh yeah, talk to me about that
Yeah.
actually. So what do you think is a healthy and sustainable weight?
so truthfully, like for prep, my stage weight, like I dropped down to 100 pounds soaking wet. Yeah, which typically like before I started bodybuilding, I started upwards of like 130 pounds, and like I looked good, I felt good, I very healthy, healthy body weight, and going into a recomp phase to start building the figure that I needed for my division. And then as you move more into prep, your protein is high, and like your fibers like still there, but as you move closer to like your show day, your carbs start getting depleted. So probably like my push week, which is usually the last 2 weeks before peak week, which is the week before the show. There's so many different weeks and everything. But push week is when your carbs are like absolutely depleted. I would follow like 2 to 3 low carb days, and my carbs were like 50 grams of carbs. So you're running on
that much.
You're running on fumes.
That's not much at all. I probably operate at like 300 right now.
Yeah, and I love a carb, and like yeah, and on the high carb days, my carbs are still only at like 91 grams, but it would give me at least like a little brain fuel because your brain starts getting foggy when your carbs are low. And my calorie goal for my push week was 800 calories for cardio, just my cardio. That's not including my workout.
You want to burn 800 calories for cardio?
Calories for cardio.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's
It's like 2 hours of cardio.
all right, I want to get to the prep side, but like on a typical day, because that's almost, I also want to just illustrate for the audience that like if you're trying to get into just like going to the gym and stuff like that, like I'm talking about nutrition also. So when you wake up, when you work out, you do the cardio, are you fully fasted already? Are you like, throw some egg whites or something like that? You do the cardio, are you fully fasted already? Are you like throwing some egg whites or something like that?
So honestly, it depends on the day and like how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll do fasted cardio, but honestly, like my stomach can't handle the fasted cardio. I'm like on the elliptical or the treadmill. I'm like, I just need something, protein shake, anything. So typically I'll have my pre-workout meal, which is usually protein shake or 5 to 6 egg whites. I go through eggs like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And depending on how I'm feeling, like I'll pick between the two. I get a nice rice cake, and then I have some berries with that. And then I'll usually start out with my cardio. Kind of like to split it up. Right now I'm only at 500 for my reverse phase, and that'll start tapering down as the reverse progresses. But so I'll have my pre-workout meal and go hit some cardio. I'll get my lift in, and usually my lift is done about like 6:30 in the morning. And then I go back home, plug in a little bit for work while I'm making my post-workout meal, which is kind of like the same thing, protein shake or some eggs, and then also some more berries. And I've actually like gotten really into being creative throughout prep. So I started taking my protein mix, mixing it with some water and some like baking powder. And then I would like crush up my rice cake, and I would make pancakes out of that thing.
Baking powder to give it a little bit of air.
Yep.
Wow. That's interesting. I never heard of that one before. And I think that's one of the things I know about bodybuilding is that your meals do get redundant after a while.
They sure do.
How many egg whites can you actually consume every day? I mean, you probably, maybe if you love eggs, then you're all set. For somebody who's just like, chicken and white, grilled chicken and white rice.
Yeah.
I remember those days in my early 20s, just if I was trying to go hard on something like that and trying to like get lean, but also just try to eat somewhat clean, it would be like chicken breasts, rice.
Yeah.
Rice.
It's definitely like you have to change the mindset, especially like in bodybuilding, because you're using that food to fuel your workouts. So that's how I started to look at it. Like, sure, it's food, it's sustainable and all that and all that jazz, but like it's something to power me through the next workout, give me that brain power throughout the day. Because honestly, like after a workout or midway through the day, if I don't have my chicken and my green beans, like I'm gonna be so tired.
Yeah.
The brain fog gets really rough.
Workout in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I do that often after a lunch, nice hearty lunch. I'm like, we're good here. Day's over. You did mention the prep side of it a little bit. So that's a regular day. And then as you do prep, it gets more extreme. But you're talking about reverse, meaning that like you're saying literally that like you are heads down focused on that show. And then afterwards, you kind of have to reverse the amount. Like now you're just kind of like refueling yourself in a sense because you got to recover. Because it's, when I think about bodybuilding, I also think about like, it's like not a traumatic event, but it's pretty extreme.
For sure.
Right? You said 100 pounds soaking wet and your natural healthy body weight is around like 130, you said?
Yeah, I'll probably get up to like 120 this time around, but also like really focus on building healthy muscle.
Right. Because when you do your prep, you also waste muscle too.
For sure.
You can't keep it all.
Yeah.
Right? So you always have to. So what, I guess, guidelines do you look at or what programs do you follow? Is it your own?
My coach for sure.
Is there a specific discipline? Because I the way I think of these things, I know there's like programs for individual lifts like Smolov, right? Smolov Jr., which is like crazy amount of squats. And it's just like you are squatting literally every single day to failure practically.
Mm-hmm.
And it just hurts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll gain like 100 pounds in your squat or something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Does your coach follow any specific, like, where do you look for inspiration for some of that stuff?
So I honestly, we have a team, and I unfortunately haven't been able to go to a lot of the team workouts with how my schedule was between like my own prep and work and everything. But now that I have a little bit more time back, since I'm not in prep, I definitely like will be going to lifts with the team, and they really inspire me because like we're all in it for the same reason and we all understand. And honestly, like some people really don't understand why people do bodybuilding because it's something, it's really hard. Like you don't get to, it's discipline and consistency at the end of the day. Like some days you don't have the motivation to keep going, but you have to keep the discipline and the consistency. And, you know, I have a really great coach that I can reach out to any time of day and be like, I'm having a really tough day, or I really need help with this lift. Like one of the main things that I have to do is I have to send 2 videos a week to him of me doing lifts to make sure that I'm lifting properly. And he'll give me the key pointers like RDLs, for example. Well, little backstory. I'm very bow-legged. Like I'm super hyper flexible. And one of the things with my RDLs, like I just was not hitting it right for him. And like, I wasn't feeling the stretch properly. And I was like, why can I just not get this right? And I took a video and I sent it to my coach and he gave me the pointers. And now like my hamstrings go crazy because I'm finally hitting the lift correctly.
Yeah, RDL, I love good RDL.
Me too.
The mini and deadlifts are like a go-to thing for me. I'm old, so I'd like my lower back. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, like it takes you a minute for my body to get going now.
Mm-hmm.
I just turned 47. I'm looking at like you would know. Oh, wait, where's my wife? She was just showing there the other day. Yes, she was over here. I was like, how old am I again? 47, officially. And so a good RDL, a good hamstring stretch. Like I'm always doing like elephant walks and stuff like that, just to like, hinge. So but I often think about this, and again, we go back to discipline and consistency. One of the reasons why I prefer group activities is because I'm like by myself, I'm the worst person. I'm like so lazy. Like I'm just like, do I have to lift that? But if there's other people around, I'm like, all right, well, I have to lift it. I'm in a group, anything like that. I remember one of the original inspirations for me about being consistent specifically and trying to hit 3 or 4 times a week in the gym. When it gets really stressful, 5 times a week in the gym. I mean, the gym just helps my stress levels.
For sure.
But I remember I was in this little CrossFit gym in Brooklyn, where we lived in Brooklyn, and it was so small that there was only, I think, 12 spots per class. And if you took a spot and you didn't show up, that was the worst thing you could potentially do because you're taking someone else's spot. Because everybody wanted to go to the gym and you had to not get up, how do I say it? The night before when they pushed the workout is when you could actually schedule your class. Okay. So it's the night before. You'd have to be like, all right, I think there was a 6 a.m. class or something like that. I was like, 6 a.m., I'm in. And if I didn't show up for that one, everybody else is just like, dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So discipline, consistency, and everybody has their ebbs and flows with how, true they are to that stuff. But do you subscribe to any specific like nutrition plan or anything like that?
I have like the MyFitnessPal to track my macros. But honestly, no. My subscription plan to my coach for sure, but just MyFitnessPal.
Does the coach like say, hey, this is the protein levels you need to be hitting?
Exactly.
So they're just dialing everything in, and then when it goes into prep, it's like a whole new set of macros you're gonna hit.
For sure, yeah. So typically I'd say like he does my meal plan, my workout plan, my posing. He's my posing coach too. It's like all in one type subscription.
Yeah, posing is a whole nother thing, and that's the thing. I think bodybuilding is super misunderstood. Because you see the headlines of like people like all jacked up, taking all this, they're taking like tren, and all this other crazy stuff. And then, and you get some of these bodybuilders and they're like 35 years old and they're having heart attacks and stuff like that because they just pushed themselves to this extreme kind of monster size that's just really hard to like, you can't even move at that point.
Yeah.
But I do know that like the posing side is also kind of an art too, right? And there's like very specific things you need to be kind of focused on. But for your coach specific, like when did you know you needed a coach? Like for anybody who's trying to get into potentially thinking about bodybuilding, maybe they go to the gym a little bit right now and they're already starting to like kind of like looking pretty good. Like when do they actually take it to the next level?
I knew that I needed a coach because of the nutrition aspect of it. That's something that I had struggled with in the beginning. Like I was never like really a big fan of chicken, or I used to hate eggs, and like figuring out what vegetables worked with my body properly. Because like broccoli, for example, broccoli really bloats me. So I can't have broccoli. I stick with green beans or spinach and asparagus.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I remember I used to take this, I can't remember what it's called anymore, but I used to take this kind of swab test where it would tell you how your gut kind of interact with different foods. It was almost like how they do those allergy tests when they prick you with a bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that with food in your belly. And so you'd be able to tell like how different things affect you. There's probably more advanced ones right now. I think that one went out of business due to fraud or something crazy. So it was like that. So like you get these tech companies who create these new like tests and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'm always a guinea pig. So I'm always like trying out new things. But you have to kind of, in your case, you kind of like knew, well, you had to convince yourself ultimately that like eggs are for the goal, for the plan, I have to like eggs.
Exactly.
You had to convince yourself meant to be like, actually, I love eggs all of a sudden. Big smile on your face. You're like, I love this.
For sure. Yeah. Especially on like the days like when you're extra hungry, like I had the option between like protein shake or 6 eggs. If I'm starving, I'm taking those 6 eggs and it's going to feel like a Michelin star meal to me.
Right.
So, but yeah.
How do you get things, like, how do you keep it interesting? You obviously talked about like that little baking powder trick with
the baking powder trick with the proteins,
cakes.
And mixing a rice cake in there. Then like when I'm sick of chicken breast, I have the option to switch to shrimp. I've gotten really creative with mixing Old Bay seasoning and making like a seafood.
Yeah, the spices and seasoning is huge.
Yeah,
with all that stuff.
Spices, seasonings, hot sauce has no calories, so a lot of hot sauce. And then one of the nutrition shops that I go to get all my supplements, all my protein, they actually have a lot of sauces that are low calorie, low carb, low sugar. So I really relied on those. I found like a perfect honey mustard flavored one.
Nice.
Some salsa as well, like low calorie. Yeah.
So when you're thinking about like a show, so you're now just getting to that prep side again, mentally, like that was your first show?
Yeah, my first show was in October, and then this past weekend I just did another show with a federation called the WNBF, which is a international bodybuilding federation. So that was out in White Plains, New York, and then the one in October where I earned my pro card with the OCB Federation. That was October.
So, but like mentally, you must have been, were you super nervous to get on stage?
For the October one, no. I just felt so ready and was just so excited to get out there. And like at the end of the day, for me, it's all about having fun. I go into a show with like no expectations. I like being backstage with people who get it and meeting all the guys and the girls who are in it for the same thing. But I will say, like for this one that I had this past weekend, I was really nervous. I wasn't planning on doing that show, but like I was already lean. My coach was like, do you want to do this show we have another competitor who's going to be there. Do you want to do it? I was like, heck yeah, you know what? Let's just do it. The issue was the poses are a little different with the WNBF. So I had, so
different shows have different poses. I thought it was all freestyle. You can just do whatever you want.
Oh no, you have certain poses you have to hit up on stage. Yeah.
It was like the front double by or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
So for the figure category, which
right, you're in the figure category.
Yeah. So you have like your front pose and a back pose, but the difference between the OCB and the WNBF is the side poses. So instead of like keeping my hand on my hip with the WNBF, I had to like use both of my arms and turn a certain way, and
just laying on.
Yeah, which was like my mind and muscle connection, like trying to figure out the difference between the two was really difficult. But like I still went in, had fun, came out in second place. I can't complain. I'll have 3 weeks. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's again another thing that people. This is why I wanted to bring you on also to talk about bodybuilding, is because it's like there's such obvious misconceptions about that. I didn't even know there was different poses.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was like, oh, you just go up there and you start posing and you're good to go. You know.
No.
I'm sure it's a lot more organized than that. How does cannabis play into any of this?
Recovery and pre-workout. It's definitely, I've stopped, well, I know I have like a can of C4 next to me. I like drinking that throughout the day, but I actually do not take pre-workout before my workouts. I take a fat dab and get after it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's like gram.
Yeah. You have to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like a fat dab and get after it.
Actually, I might have to add that into like my Instagram handle.
Trademark.
Yeah, trademark it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So pre-workout is dab. I actually have my own pre-workout formula that I've created. I'm always in the lab, like mixing with stuff. So I'll have to share that with you. Just see what you think. It works really well. No caffeine in it.
Okay.
So what I did was I created a pre-workout with a bunch of stuff with like, the nitrous oxide side. So like beetroot powder, something like that, and a couple other things in there, and then I'll have the caffeine separately.
Okay.
So, because I'll have coffee in the morning, and I like my coffee, so I don't want to mess with that. So I don't want to double up on caffeine either. So I'm just like, I'll have 1 cup of coffee and have my pre-workout. There are 2 separate things, and then I'll get after it at the gym. On the recovery side, is it a dab again, or is it something else?
I love topicals because honestly, like between the workouts, the cardio, like your body is going through it. So I really
your joints and stuff like that.
My joints, especially like with I'm hypermobile too. So like my knees really hurt after a leg day, and especially after some of the cardio. Like if I choose to run that day, like I'm smothering myself in a can of bomb.
Yeah.
Some of the
pavement on those knees.
Yeah, it's rough.
What's your favorite lift right now? Or which in general?
Back day for sure. Yeah.
What like pull downs or
pull downs, rows, single arm rows. Yeah.
Is that because that's the part of your body that you're most proud of, and or is it just because it's easy, or is it because
like a mix of both?
Let's say you know how people like get that crutch, like I love squat day, and you're just like this dude with giant legs. Yeah, I love squatting, of course. But what about your bench? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll say like it's a mix of both. Like I definitely love the movements of back, and like I personally think back is one of my favorite features of myself. Everyone says it's my legs. Like so many people will compliment me on my quads and everything, but for me, like I've really built out my back the past 2 years, and I'm really excited to get back into building my big back.
And then that's where the coach comes in, who can be like that third party kind of person who can look and be like, okay, you need it. Your back's great, but like you're underdeveloped in your hamstrings. Exactly. And then you can kind of focus more exercises and nutrition, and all sorts of stuff gets catered to that. If you're into cannabis, entrepreneurship, or just like hearing from people who actually build things, check out High Functioning. It's real talk with founders, operators, and big thinkers. No fluff, just game. And you can subscribe and listen at highfunctioning.show. All right, let's get back to the show. Super fascinating stuff. So dab, pre-workout, topicals at the end of the day, good combo. Do you think cannabis is a performance enhancing compound, I'll say?
I mean, like in ways, like it can be for sure. Like I think it really helps me, like on the days that I don't consume before my workout, like my mind just keeps going, and I start like kind of almost psyching myself out in a way with some of my
starts creeping in.
For sure. Yeah. And like, I don't want to say like I want to turn my brain off during my lifts, but I want to turn my brain off during cardio, because like you start getting that mental doubt. Like cardio was one of the toughest things for me, because it took me 2 hours, like towards the end of
I was going to say, because 800 calories takes 2 hours.
For me personally, like for some of my other teammates, it wouldn't take 2 hours. But for me, in the earlier days of my fitness journey, I was running a lot on the treadmill. That's how I really got back into fitness. I was running like a 5K 3 to 4 times a week, and
that'll get you in shape.
It got me into shape, and like it started getting harder for me to burn calories. So
So, but don't you like? How do you feel about the people who say calories is just a number game? Because if you were to do 800 calories of cardio, couldn't you just like eat 800 calories less and skip the cardio?
I wish it was that easy, but
I was just doing no. Do I really want to spend 2 hours doing 800 calories worth of cardio, or do I just like eat maybe like 400 calories less that day and do like an hour worth of cardio?
Because at the end of the day, like you don't want to cut out the food, because like it's supposed to fuel you and it fuels your recovery. Like food is so important, and like if you start cutting back on it, it can actually make you a lot more bloated, and your body starts to kind of get a little agitated with itself and starts holding onto the sodium and folding onto like essentially water retention.
Yep.
And then you start seeing those spikes when your food's not consistent.
All of a sudden you're like, why did I gain 3 pounds? Well,
exactly.
Because you're just retaining water. It's water. Do you do like, now that I'm thinking about it, like, do you have to do diuretics or anything like that? Like, do you do anything more on that side as, ready for prep?
No, but I do like take a few like cortisol blockers to help with stress and inflammation. I do take like a debloater every day, and one of the other supplements that I take is L-carnitine, which is like helps with fat burn.
Yep.
Diuretics, and drink my water, flush it out.
Well, I think that's where that's a slippery slope to go down.
Yeah,
you have to be careful, because then it's just like, all right, well, a lot of those really big bodybuilders and a couple that I met, when they're going down that path, they're willing to just get to like do that next thing. Mm-hmm. And there's that body dysmorphia kind of side to it. It's just like, I'm never big enough, and I think everybody suffers from that a little bit in a sense, that I really, as a parent, I'm like, I hope my kids don't really go through too much of that, because it's so easy, again, to look at social media and be like, look at all these jacked people. And every post is them just like swole and like ripped and getting all this attention and cameras going off and stuff like that. And they're super famous. In reality, that's just like, again, one slice of their life.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to be careful, because it can go down that slippery path. And especially as we age and we want to get back to our youth again, you know, I'm feeling that right now myself. So in the fitness world, is there a stigma around cannabis?
I think so. And
You ever see it?
I personally haven't like really experienced it, but I will say like for competitions, so little backstory here, you have to get polygraphed before a competition.
Like a lie detector
A
test?
lie detector test, man. Like strapped in. Yes. One of the things is with the OCB, you can't consume 24 hours before the polygraph test. And for the WNBF, it was 48 hours before the polygraph.
Specifically to cannabis.
Specifically to cannabis. They do, both federations are all natural, so can't take steroids, can't take diuretics, and that's like 7 to 8 years. Luckily, like you can still consume cannabis and you can still consume CBD, you just can't do it
Within those
certain time frames.
And so do you know of other bodybuilders that consume also? Or is it not like, it's kind of like one of those things people don't talk about?
I don't really like, well, actually, everyone on my team, like,
you work.
I work in cannabis. I work in the industry, but like, I don't openly ask people. I have met a few people, and I do follow some bodybuilders on Instagram. This one girl, Charlotte, she like posts all the time. Like, her pre-workout is smoking before, and like, I wish people were more open about it, because I'm sure that there are other bodybuilders out there who do consume, but because of their federation or whatever, they might not want to be open about it, because you can be drug tested and maybe like they're...
And that's on a ban list in some...
Exactly.
Right. Not everybody's cool with it. That's like in the federation level. Yeah, because I think about it as, again, I use it as a recovery a lot of the times, because, you know, the day-to-day stress of running a company is one part of it. Definitely need to reduce my stress at the end of the day. But maybe as a pre-workout and stuff like that, there's definitely times where I'm just like, I just want to get out of my head. It's me and the iron, me and the weight. And that's just going to move. This weight's not going to move itself. I can move the weight, right? So I often feel like I'm constantly consuming cannabis to get out of my own head and just focus on the task at hand, you know? So switching a little bit more into the industry side, you're also the buyer for Bud's Goods.
Yeah.
So Bud's Goods and Provisions.
Bud's Goods and Provisions.
Right.
Bud's Goods of New Jersey.
Bud's Goods of New Jersey. So the New Jersey one's called Bud's Goods.
Bud's Goods of New Jersey.
You can't do Provisions down there?
We honestly have no idea how there's works.
Why it's the regulatory thing about stuff.
Yeah. But so Bud's Goods of New Jersey, I do the purchasing for there, and I'm back for Bud's Goods and Provisions, Massachusetts, to do the buying there. Thank you.
So we missed you.
So thank you.
The provision side is one of those things, because I know there's, you know, even the Massachusetts side, it's like, can you have other things besides, outside of accessories, like other food products, right? So that was a big thing. And I know there's some stores, and I think that just got clarified that you can, but there's some stores that'll have like these really fun, like Japanese snacks and stuff like that. And like really like they'll have a little carousel or display with all these fun little snacks in it, which if you're going to get, you know, an eighth and you see like a fun snack, you're like, yeah, of course I'm going to get that, right? So it adds additional income to the store, and nobody got hurt. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing happened, but it's one of those things where like it was regulatory, like kind of gray for a while until now it's getting spelled out. That's why I was asking about Jersey, is like the provisions were left off at this one.
Yeah.
So you've been at Bud's Goods for how long?
Little over 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was that your first
first industry job?
Where were you coming for before?
So little backstory of how like I got into the cannabis industry. I actually before my time at Bud's, my bachelor's degree is in health and community services. So I started off working in group homes, worked in mental health group homes. I worked in some recovery group homes as well. And then circa COVID time, I was in grad school for healthcare administration, working in an inpatient psychiatric facility in oh my God, was that a time to be working there during COVID.
Psychological, everything was psychological back then.
Yeah, it was really rough, and I was doing school online, and like, I don't want to say I was miserable, but I was not happy working in patient psych or really honestly like working in the healthcare industry because it was a tough time, like so much just going on, and it was really dark during COVID working in healthcare. And my mom, who actually got me into consuming, super cool story there, but my mom got me into consuming, and I was talking to her one day like about like work is just so rough, like I don't know if I can do this anymore. And she's like, while you're wrapping up school, why don't you go do something fun? Why don't you go like be a bud tender or something? And one of my friends actually from Anna Maria was a bud tender at Bud's Goods, and I was like, can you help me get in there? And she made a reference for me, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and you're climbing the ranks quick.
Yeah.
So what's the story with your mom getting you into consumption?
So it also like does fall a little in like mental health. So back when I was a freshman in college, like I was having a really rough time like getting into the swing of things at school, and I like literally called my mom crying. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, man. Like this is really, really rough. Like, and
you're like 18.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And it's like you're asking the 18-year-old, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?
That's the big question. Everybody's like, what are you doing? I'm even pressing my kids a little bit on that, but not in a sense of like, you have to decide and like make a commitment to something.
Yeah.
It's more of just like, I even tell them all the time, like, I don't know what I want to do the rest of my life. It's probably this, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. But Anna Maria, luckily, like from Worcester, it's like a 20-minute drive. I was so fortunate to get to like live on campus and everything. But I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, can you come see me, please? Like, and she was like, yeah, I'm coming. And she was like, just smoke this. Just smoke it.
And come it and bring it neat.
So like I had consumed like here and there in high school, like, but I never was like really into it in high school. But my mom packed a bowl in the car, like it hiding away from like the campus police so I could calm down a little bit. And like I realized like, wow, this really did center me and like really calmed me down. And
that's the beautiful thing about the plant. Like sometimes when you consume it, it kind of puts you in your head again, like the right space.
For sure.
I found that because I the reason why I got into the industry was because of my own medical issues and because of stress ultimately. Mm-hmm. And so, as an entrepreneur, you're often like, the more risk you take, the more reward. And so it's also kind of addicting to be like, all right, let's do this now. You get squirrel brain. You're like, what's over there? And what's over there? What's over there? You're just like chasing all these ideas all the time. But one of the philosophies that I've always looked by, which is, just decide and figure it out later. Mm-hmm. Just make the decision, be decisive, make the decision. And just like, if your gut says to do it, just go do it. And then figure out how you're going to actually do it. Mm-hmm. And connect all the dots and stuff like that. But that leads into more a stress related thing where it's just like, well, I'm always running from fear. Mm-hmm. Like there's always some competitor out there who's going to, or like there's an existential crisis that's happening that I'm not aware of. It's an exogenous event, like our building's for sale, for instance, right now. So I know we could just get kicked out tomorrow. Thing we don't know, right? So always that fear-driven thing, and to the point where I locked up my jaw.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't open my mouth. And so the only thing that helped was cannabis. Literally, I had dentists and doctors, all types of people try to open my jaw back up, and nothing was working. It would open up in the middle of the day. I'd be like, all right, it's working again. And then the next morning I'd wake up, it was locked again. Because every night I'd just be clenching and holding my neck just like, all night. And like, I would have dreams where my teeth were falling out and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh my God.
My teeth are just getting shattered every single night. And then I'd wake up and it'd be locked again. Right. Until I started consuming cannabis. And I was like, it's not, life isn't, it doesn't have to be this stressful. You should also enjoy your life a little bit too. Not just like always be grinding and hustling the entire time. So from that perspective, also performance enhancing drug because it centers me even in business. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a really good hack for business and professionals because people are running really high stress lives right now, and not just business professionals, everybody really.
For sure.
Right? And everybody kind of can find their center and continue to exist and like have have purpose in life and try to find that center. Getting back to Bud's Goods though, I think about buds, I think of how everybody in the company uses the word bud.
Hey, bud.
Hey, bud. Bud. So where did that come from? Was that like Alex being like, hey, everybody's bud? Or was it naturally organic, just came through the company?
Honestly, like naturally, like truthfully, I've always started my emails with "Hey bud," and I think it's because I saw Alex with his like ending his emails with "Your bud." I was like, all right, I'm just gonna call everyone bud. Everyone's
awesome.
bud.
Everybody's bud. Yeah, it just definitely, it was one of those things that it was just so unique and interesting, and it's a great piece of branding, ultimately, right? Because you're just reinforcing the brand over and over again. So I love that stuff. But so that was kind of like so Alex had that in a signature, and you were just like, let me adapt.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. So when I think of those things, I think about like how Bud's Goods is now expanding too. Do you know the decision making behind going to Jersey? Is there other states planned or anything like that?
I'm unsure about any other states planned at this time, but I've known about like New Jersey coming online for about like 2.5 years, and
It's a while.
Yeah, it took forever, and we finally actually just launched our products down in the Jersey wholesale market last week. So it's like finally there.
So is it stores and products or just products?
No store yet, but just products right now. And we have like our Lakeville facility out here in Massachusetts, and we brought the same EMA C1 filler to do pre-roll production down in New Jersey, and our main focus will be pre-roll SKUs to wholesale.
Yeah, that machine is pretty intense though, isn't it?
That thing kicks out pretty.
Yeah, it does. Because I always think about that stuff, because I remember when Alex was talking to people about potential like wholesale, or not wholesale, co-packing.
Yeah.
So, bringing other people in, because if a machine is just sitting there idle, it's not making any money.
Exactly.
You have to keep it, occupied. And, keep on throwing flour at it to just generate all these pre-rolls. So you get that same machine down in Jersey. So what's the big SKUs down in Jersey right now? So pre-rolls?
So we wholesale up here in Massachusetts and New Jersey. We have our Little J's line, which is a 10-pack of dog walkers.
So is that 0.3?
0.35 gram. So full eighth there. Then we have our J's Party Pack line, which is a 28-pack half-gram joint, so 14 grams in total. Yeah. Those are
big joints.
Yeah, 28 joints. And then we have our J's 2-pack of half grams and J's 1 gram singles. And then we do have a new line that will be launching soon. And actually, by the time this airs, Daily Grind will be out in the market.
Oh, it's pre-ground?
A Daily Grind will be a 1 gram single pre-roll.
Ah, got it. Because I know that I don't know much about the flower world, but I do know that pre-ground is definitely a thing for a lot of people. And there's certain stores that are just consuming tons of the pre-ground because that's just their demographic in that big neighborhood, But how does, in your experience, New Jersey differ from Massachusetts?
Oh, y'all, it is so different. So different. I mean, like, it's still a wicked early market down there, and people are really excited about new brands coming online. A lot of MSOs are definitely like the top dogs down in Jersey right now. But there's not that many cultivations. So like,
Nobody's fighting over flower.
Everyone, that's the thing. So the testing regulations are so different down in Jersey as compared to here. So in New Jersey, you only have 6 months from test date. And then there's these things called retention samples. So if you keep retention samples in your vault, you have to keep a 6-month and a 12-month. And if they're sustainable, you can get an additional 6 months added onto that COA.
Do you have to retest it those 6 months too, in order to get the extra 6 months?
Sure do.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is the lab situation?
Not too bad. I mean, we go through green analytics. They're super great.
But the turnaround times are relatively, even for a new, sometimes when I think of new markets, it's like backlogs.
Luckily, it's only like 48 hours max for us with green analytics. So a very quick turnaround time, which is super nice. But so a lot of the cultivators, because of how the testing parameters are, like, they're waiting to test their material until they know it's going to be sold. So I'm experiencing, like, when I'm trying to buy my bulk, like, I don't know if this is the actual test because I'm just getting...
They're sitting on it until all right, we're going to sell this batch. Let's go test it and get it.
Exactly.
Because it's usually 6 months.
Yeah. So I'm like getting the historical data of what they're
historically tested like this.
Yeah. Historically it tested like this. It should come back at this, and hopefully it comes back at this because I want to buy it.
It's so funny in different markets how the world kind of just, the regulations dictate so much of the SOPs that you're just modifying kind of like how things are done. That just, again, in my opinion, it's so overregulated that you have to jump through hoops to do all these things. And now you have cultivators holding on to stuff and not testing it right away because the test results only 6 months, last 6 months. And so it's like, I don't think regulators understand what they understand. I'm not going to knock any regulator, but I do know that like, sometimes they're not as informed as the industry.
Yeah.
And so the industry knows exactly how to do that loophole.
Yeah.
Right. Are you guys seeing any of the stuff like that, that you kind of, the big noise that's happening around the rest of the country, which is like inversion or anything like that, where product is taken off of like the legacy market, kind of finding its way into the New Jersey market?
Not there yet. No. New York, that's a different story, but not New Jersey. I don't think so.
I met a guy, I was in New York a month ago, and I remember this guy. I was at an after party and I was talking with this guy, and he was running the other side of a very well-known brand. He's like, yep. That's their, they've got their existing thing here, but I'm doing all behind the scenes stuff. It's like, I don't know if I want to know who this person is.
Yeah.
I took a step back. I was like, okay, you do your thing over there. Earmuffs. Like, I don't want to hear, but I don't want to hear any of this stuff because I'm not trying to be a part of that world. We've got to stay off because there's too much to risk.
For sure.
The license itself is so hard to get still, and it's very expensive to get. Like, I'm not taking those risks to even talk to people that are doing anything backdoor-ish. Like, it's not worth it for us. So are there specific like products in Jersey that stand out as compared to like Massachusetts? Is it like, you're obviously doing a ton of pre-rolls, but do you see any other trends in the New Jersey market?
One of the very different things that I've seen is on the infused pre-roll side, like there's not a lot of botanical terp infused pre-rolls down there. They started off with THCA isolate. I think it's because disty prices down in New Jersey are kind of crazy in comparison.
What's it go to, right?
Oh my God. I mean, like I've been lucky with like the prices I've gotten for bulk distillate, but like on the customer side, I've seen carts as high as like $70.
Wow.
Eights
for a gram cart.
For a gram cart. Eights as high as that $60 to $70 mark as well too. So
it's a sign of a new market.
It's a new market. Yeah.
It's so funny because we can look at like other markets in like that are emerging, and we're just like, all right, well, and it's so funny because we had Jeff Rossett on, who's ICS, and he I got this from him. He always says the kumbaya of cannabis, where everybody gets along. And like New Jersey, everybody's like, yeah, everybody's getting along, even though there's obviously MSO dominated kind of like stores, stuff like that, and cultivation, whatever. Everybody's just like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and all those other things. It's gonna be great. And I was like, give it a year or two, and then everybody's gonna be like, all right, don't sell to him. It's going to be exclusive. Like, everybody's going to be down each other's throats, and competition's going to ramp up, and then the price compression is going to start happening, and all of a sudden there's going to be like, somebody's going to come up with the first, sub $100 ounce, and then it's like, okay.
In some places, to be honest. Like, in New Jersey, like, north compared to south. North, you can get away with, like, having the top dollar or, like, more expensive.
Because it's closer to the city?
It's closer to the city. You have travelers coming in from Newark and everything, but then you get to south central Jersey is where I live, and like you have the Trenton area, which is like in comparison, like I think like Maine South Worcester, and where people might only have $20 for a single pre-roll. So I see more of that down there and a little bit more affordability, but price
$100 ounces have already hit the market.
I've seen reels on Instagram for it. Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't be advertising on Instagram.
I know. How did they get away with it?
I don't know. We can't do that. So as far as that's the Jersey market, in Massachusetts, again, welcome back.
Thank you.
Are you seeing anything are you taking any of those learnings from Jersey, applying to Massachusetts? Are you seeing any current, what are you looking at right now in the Massachusetts market that maybe is interesting?
The bulk world has changed a lot over the last few months. A lot of cultivators have come offline or have started started taking some rooms offline, and that's really affected the bulk market overall. I think there's not as much bulk out there, and the bulk that is out there, like, people are able to hold their pricing a little more because of where it's at.
Limited supply.
Limited.
Yeah. So, I've actually heard that, and we also had another guest on just last time, which we were talking about that a lot because it was, I think the number was, they might have 14 rooms, but maybe they're only using like 2 of them right now. They're tier 10. They have lots of, canopy to go into, but they're not utilizing it all because we can't, they want to also retain their pricing.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And so, we still see distillate prices between $4 and $5 here per gram, for like 90% ish, like some good stuff too. It's not just whatever, like some throwaway stuff. Because we always try to use obviously the highest input, being kind of 5 within reasonable pricing. But when I think about bulk, I always think to myself, the outdoor growers. I always think about like Massachusetts outdoor. Actually, does Jersey have outdoor growers?
There's I've been to like 2 or 3 of them. Yeah,
because I think about the outdoor growers and I think to myself, like, we've got this big light in the sky that can like grow these plants, and Massachusetts has, for better or for worse, these really stringent regulations on how much water you can put per square foot and all this other stuff to keep everybody energy efficient-ish. But it is like we're using so much energy to grow these plants, and some of that stuff's still just getting turned into distillate at the end of the day. So I would love at some point to put together some kind of like group buying with like leasing out some outdoor grow and be like, this is all just going to turn into distillate. So let's just grow like a bunch of stuff here, and then just something that yields, like a plant that just really can yield, and grow it as best as we can, make sure it's a clean product, of course. And then we're just going to run it through extraction at that point, just because I feel like, there's different levels. If you're doing it for a cart, that's different, right? Whether you're doing a botanical or, cannabis-derived terpenes. But if it's called like food grade edible distillate or something like that, like that's different. That's just like, it's just a commodity at that point, right? We're not talking about the experience of like the plant and the terpenes and stuff like that. We're talking about like, all right, we need 5 mg in a gummy. Yeah. And then I mean, like, nothing crazy here. Let's not get too crazy here. So what do you think about the cannabis consumer in like 2026? Because since you're the buyer, you're the one who's selecting that kind of like store. And of course, you probably rely on your team a little bit to determine from the retail side, like what people are interested in and what they're talking about.
For sure.
But like, what do you think about 2026?
I think that a lot of things are going to move into bigger form factors, like 14-gram
bulk
ounces. Yeah. I mean, our party packs are doing so well. We started our 14-gram program for a flower pre-packed in the stores, and oh my God, are we going through units like crazy? So I think we're really going to start seeing more of that from a lot of vendors out there.
Do you think it's because of the value of going with more?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm already seeing it on menus, like a lot more brands coming out with their own 14-gram pouches, their own ounce pouches. And at the end of the day, like, if I, as a consumer, if I can get a $45 14-gram bag of weed, but I'm seeing like a $35 eighth, I'm going for the 14 gram.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for that $10 difference, of course, excluding taxes or whatever. But the, I heard this the other day, which I thought was really interesting, is that some people will buy like the 14-gram pack or the ounce, and it's just like communal, like they just keep it on their, like they don't have kids, they just like would keep it on their coffee table, so when friends come over, like, I'll just roll up a joint or whatever. But if they want something special, they'll go find a specific genetic or brand that they really like, and they'll buy that for themselves, kind of thing. But they kind of like have this bulk, it's 14 grams, 28 grams just lying around, because it's just like when people come over, hey, go roll yourself a joint and like have some fun, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be the best, highest quality thing in the world. It just is like communal in that sense. Are you seeing any kind of like trends like that with consumers? Like, how close are you to like the consumer side of it?
I mean, I've only been back in the purchasing role for like 3 days.
Okay.
It's like still focused for a little while.
Right, because in Jersey, you're on the other side of it.
Yeah. But I mean, like, from the consumer side, I feel like some people, sure, I've heard like same thing where it's like that communal half ounce for whoever comes over or whatever. But also too, like that's might be their bag of weed for the week that they're going to consume.
Exactly.
One of the biggest trends is that I've seen is people starting to lean more into infused pre-rolls, with the thought that like highest tack is going to get them the most ripped and everything. I'm hoping that we do see more consumers start educating on terpenes and everything and what they can do for them. But that's actually something that I've seen like really come into play down in Jersey, which has been really nice. Like people really care about terpenes down there.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, because I find that, we've talked about that a bunch on the show with other guests, which is education is also really expensive, right? And we've done a great job at conditioning people. We as a collective industry in Massachusetts, that is, not me personally or us personally, have conditioned people to always, to like, once the price compression started happening, you would see cart sizes, like you have more units, but it'd be flat as far as dollar value, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, people are buying more weed, but the prices are coming down. And so basically we're making the same amount of money, we're just selling more product.
Yeah.
And I think about the idea of educating consumers so they should care more is a really heavy lift. Like, especially if you've conditioned them to assume that, we've kind of turned them into tack hunters at some point. It's kind of like part of our responsibility.
For sure.
Right. That's kind of on us because we were like, oh, wait. So one cultivator's like, all right, I got, wholesale. I could wholesale you $50 for an ounce. And then the other person's like, I'll do it for 40. I'll do it for 30. All of a sudden, I saw an ounce the other day for like $30 or something crazy. It was just like whatever it was. It was probably trim for all we know. But like, it was like, I was like, they're advertising for it though. You know what I mean? Not advertising. Sorry, CCC. Not advertising. They just had it on their menu. I apologize. I don't want to get messed up here. Anyways, I think education is one of those things that it's the kumbaya effect where she's like, oh yeah, let's educate everybody. Who's educating these people? Because at a store level, yes, a bud tender can be like, oh, here's what you should care more. There's, sometimes in Instagram, you can kind of educate people. You can't advertise your product necessarily directly, but you can educate people on like why they should care. But it's a heavy lift. Like, whose responsibility is that? So
I will say, like, education-wise, one of the things that I've done is I really like to make stream videos. So Microsoft, they have this thing called Stream, and I try to keep it under like 3 minutes, like TikTok style. Like, you really can only keep someone's attention sometimes for those 3 minutes, and then you lose them.
Was it Microsoft has a social network, or this is just
it's a platform where I can do some screen sharing and do like a voiceover with the video. So I can't wait to bring these back for our bud tenders. So like any new product that's coming into the stores, or like say something's leaving the store, I would do my quick 3-minute video giving an education piece, like this is the product that's coming in,
and that goes to the team,
all our
that's
buds.
A great idea.
Yeah,
I like that. And so yeah, I guess we could all do a little bit to educate as we continue to evolve in this industry, because as an industry, and specifically in Massachusetts, as it evolves, my theory is, which has been somewhat confirmed with data, is that we're basically swapping customers right now from stores. So like, oh, I don't want to go to the Buds Goods Worcester, I'll go to this one instead, or vice versa, or whatever. Like I don't really see a lot of net new customers coming online. Of course, there's always people who are turning 21. There's always people who have like a medical situation where they have to, whether they're going through chemo and they want to increase their appetite, or glaucoma, or whatever the, medical reasons for consuming. But I feel like at the end of the day, we're kind of like switching customers, like, oh, you got a deal over here, you got a deal over here. And they're kind of going back and forth between these two kind of stores that are like on their route home on for work, for instance. So when I think about those things, I think to myself, like, what does the industry look like in the future? Like, what are we going to, like, net new customers aren't coming in, and there's 400 stores. Like, what does the future look like? Are we at the top of like stores? Should there be 1,000 stores? Should there be 200 stores? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that there does have to be a cap eventually. And I mean, I know that there's talks of the possibility of individuals being able to get more stores down the line. And like, of course I want to see more bud stores. And I think it's really going to depend, like, in a sense, for some people, like, who's going to make it on top and who's not at the end of the day, unfortunately. So
Yeah. We can't all make it.
we can't all make it. Exactly.
So do you think if the regulations allowed it to go to 4, 5, and 6 stores, because that's currently how it's written, so the cap is 3, and then in the following year after, if it does pass, you'll be able to get a 4th store, a 5th store, a 6th store. Do you think buds will get number 4? You don't know.
No idea.
I'll talk to Alex about that. But I mean, again, then you'd be buying for 4 stores.
Yeah.
So how many SKUs actually do you carry?
Oh, God. Quite a bit. I want to say, like, usually the menus sit around like 400 different options.
And is it consistent? You just try to keep it consistent across? Or do you selectively like, oh, you're like Worcester, they like this, and in Abington, they like this, and then Watertown likes this?
For sure. I will say, like, majority of the time, each store does have the same brands, but I will switch it up, like, like strain wise. Some SKUs might not work in Abington, but might work in Worcester. Like, Worcester, for example, is our biggest flower store. They sell through flower like there's no tomorrow. And then there's Abington, who is like an everything store. They can sell just about anything. And then there's Watertown, that's a big concentrate store, which I really think has to do with like the apartment living. Some people might not be able to consume flower or whatever, but they crank through concentrates like I want to say like a decent amount of their sales are concentrates. And I feel like the concentrate category overall, like in the industry, is very minuscule in comparison to some other things, but they crank it out. So
I feel like concentrate is definitely like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
Because it's like flour and then pre-rolls.
Edible.
Then maybe edibles, then concentrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's something like that in that order. But what do you look for when you're looking to like get new brands? Are you guys like always open to new brands, or you're like locked in? You're like, this is all we care about right now. Let's focus on these.
I always like to give someone the opportunity to make their pitch, and I'm very transparent. Like, I'll tell someone off the rip, like, hey, I'll talk to you, but I'm not ready for you. But let's talk. Let me see what you might have. And let's see down the line, like, when the time is right, if we could possibly bring you on.
What is usually the indicator for the time is right? Like, there's maybe a slower moving SKU, and you're like, all right, that one's kind of trailing off. Let's bring somebody else in to kind of.
Yeah. I will say, like, I try my best to give everyone, like, the shot, like, let's try running it on a promo. Let's see what we can do to get the movement. And it's like, if that movement doesn't happen, I got to make the best decision. Like, I have to make the decision that's best for the store. And then I usually wait a little bit, see how the other SKUs start moving as I take something off the menu, and then start having some more conversations of like what else is out there. Or I'll look over my list, like, okay, I talked to this brand. I know they have this available at this pricing. But my biggest thing is, like, someone has to try it, especially the bud tenders. Like, I want to make sure that our bud tenders get to try whatever's on the menu, because how can you expect them to sell something that they haven't tried?
And you guys have like an internal like program that there's like discounts, not discounts, but like employee programs for your products. So
For sure.
Get hold of them.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that's another one of those regulatory things where it's just like, if we didn't have this whole, and I know the whole pennying out memo came out, like, obviously it was last year, or maybe it was earlier this year, time flies. But it is one of the situations where it's like, the state cares about diversion. I totally get it. We don't divert. It's not our interest to divert, but it is in our interest to get the bud tenders samples. Whatever you want to qualify them as samples, like the bud tenders have to try the product, because I believe that same thing, which is if they try it and they like it, they'll sell it much better.
For sure.
So what are some do's and don'ts as a brand when they approach a buyer?
Oh, man.
What do you like? What don't you like?
For me, because it's tough to find me, like, to be honest. Look, I can't lie.
I mean, a lot of buyers are ghosts. We're like, this is mythical creature. Cam, let's go.
So for me personally, like, I like someone who, if I say no and like no right now, but if you're following up with me and you keep following up with me, it shows that like you're consistent with like that reaching out. And if you're consistent in like I know it just shows like the character, like, okay, they really care about this account. But if I bring on your products and then you're like a ghost whenever something might happen, that's a don't.
Right. You got to support it. Yeah, but there's also, you can have that overbearing salesperson.
Yeah, for
Who's
sure.
just like, I said no yesterday, literally. Like, you don't have to call me today.
Yeah.
Again, right? So when I think about kind of like the do's and don'ts of it, I find that that's a big one. But like, if you were to put your buyer hat on right now, and start thinking through the different brands in your portfolio, like, do you have specific categories you're trying to fill like today? And of course, this won't air in live, but
right now, honestly, like, not really. Our menu is pretty good standing, but I'm always looking over categories. Like, I just did a deep dive on disposable vapes yesterday with Ben, our COO, and we did a concentrate deep dive the other day. So, like, we're constantly looking over all the SKUs, looking over pricing.
But you have to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the and the brands, right? But like, how are you finding these brands? Are you going out and searching for them? Are you just on the receiving end constantly, so you kind of already know?
I will say, like, I'm definitely on the receiving end, and my emails out there, and I'm sure like people talk and are able to like make the connections and everything. So typically, majority of the time, it's a wholesaler approaching me. But I very much, like, on Apex Trading, I go onto the marketplace and I'm looking on there, like, okay, like, what new brands are there that I haven't gotten to try or that might have just came out, and seeing like where's their pricing, what new flavors are coming out, what new strains, constantly just looking to put on my list, like, could this be a potential down the line when we're ready for it?
What I think would be valuable? I would love to see how you use Apex. But think from that perspective, because as a brand, I don't know how a typical buyer, not just to say you're typical, but like how a buyer approaches kind of that discovery. I shared this with you offline already, but like, discovery is one of those core things that I think is difficult for all brands right now, because it's just like there's a flood of brands out there, right? And so discovery is kind of like our key. And if a consumer, specifically in the consumer side, not the buyer side, if a consumer actually can discover our product and try our product, they usually keep on buying our product. But that first discovery is the hardest part, right? And so that's why we obviously want to have samples to the bud tenders and stuff like that. We want to have in-store placements and merchandising and stuff like that, of course, too. But as far as like a buyer goes, like, I'm sure you just get hammered with brands all the time. But I just think to myself, man, like, I feel like there's still brands coming online right now that I'm hearing about every day. I'm just like, oh, there's like this new, disposable, pen company or something like that. When you did that deep dive with Ben, did you go through like, where did that list exist?
Or so honestly, like Dutchie back office. So that's me looking over products that are already in the store. And then one of the things that I think is really lacking in the market right now is a non-botanical infused pre-roll. Like, everything has botanical terpenes in it, right?
Spray packs.
Yeah. And like, no hate, like there's consumers out there who love that.
They love their strawberry, blueberry, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it may be. So I was like, man, like, what brands are out there that don't have the botanical terps? Is there a bubble hash infused pre-roll out there anymore? So I went right into Apex, right on the marketplace, looked over infused pre-rolls, and I just start reading, seeing what's out there, going into the brands that I might already buy from that are on my buyers list, go look at their menus, see if they might have something new. And I actually, someone that we hadn't bought from yet that I just bought from this week, and it's going to be coming into buds next week, Euphoria Farms. Oh my God, they're growing some great weed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Shout out to Euphoria.
Shout out to Euphoria. And they have a bubble hash infused pre-roll that's finally going to fill that gap for us on our menu.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we had Ben McCabe on, who was a hash maker extraordinaire over at Sweetgrass, and they use Euphoria's materials.
Yeah.
And first time I saw it, and this is just a branding thing, I was Euphoria.
Yeah.
Or something. I was like, Euphoria. Like, I didn't know how to pronounce it. That's Euphoria.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's one of those things that, like, if you don't get it immediately, you're like, I don't know what this means. You know what I mean? Now I do. But you had mentioned Dutchie back office. So, like, again, as a brand, I don't see these tools.
Mhm.
I don't know what you're looking at. Are you looking at specific metrics? Like, is there like a sales velocity metric in Dutchie that people are like buyers should be looking at or something like that? How do you measure this stuff?
So for me, like Dutchie luckily has like some really good reporting systems, like where I'm able to pull my sales data, my inventory reports. There's the Dutchie catalog where you can see like real in time inventory levels and everything for the stores. But for me, like Dutchie's metric to Dutchie, where we have all of our inventory pour over for the POS system.
Is there like numbers in there that like say, for instance, if you're thinking about when you think to yourself, all right, let's buy some slow moving SKUs, or like who's our best performing SKUs? Like, is that like number of units, over the month that they've sold? Like, what numbers do you look at?
I look at a mix of like bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly.
So it's all based on sell-through?
All based on sell-through. So I'll pull like my sales report, pull the inventory reports. Usually towards the end of the month, like I'll pull full month sales report and see how everyone performed. And start looking at the slow movers. Like, what can I do to get these things moving again? Is it because like maybe they weren't on a promotion this month and
the pricing might be a little bit off.
Pricing, exactly. And
the bartender education might not be there, so it's just sitting and there's no in-store merchandising, so nobody's ever heard about it.
Exactly.
That, again, the discovery thing. So there's only so much footprint you can put in a store.
Yeah.
So you could have to be very selective with I know Bud's Goods the stores themselves are beautiful stores. So you don't want to flood it with a bunch of junk, merchandising, of course. But I often think about discovery, where it's just like, all right, the bud tenders haven't tried it yet, which means they're also probably not talking about it. And you have no footprint in the store. How is anybody going to ever see that brand, right? Or even consider it as an option to purchase? So when I think about like the metrics, I would love to see like you get like the top 10 is like in green, and then the slowest 10 are in like red, or 10% of brand, you know what I mean? Like, so out of 400, there'd be 40 at the bottom that are just like, all right, these are the slow moving ones. Does Dutchie do any color coding or anything like that?
Actually, no, I have to do that to my pivots myself.
Right. So you download, like you export it, and then you go ahead and process it in Excel or something.
For sure.
Wow. Dutchie, get on that, because I think, but I think there's like, as the industry matures, the tools have to mature also.
For sure.
We obviously pull down a ton of data ourselves. We have our own kind of like software we built that does a lot of this stuff for us now, but like we will definitely pull down and export tons of data off of all the various systems like Apex, and then constantly just be looking for anomalies, slow moving products. Why aren't we selling as many of these? Because now we're up to like 18 SKUs ourselves, right? 18, 20 SKUs, especially with seasonals. It does get a little bit like overwhelming sometimes looking at all the data. I can't imagine 400.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
they must get some brands must get lost, or they only do they only get picked up on? They only come on your radar because if they're slow moving, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
I keep track of it all, to be honest. Like, I try to. It's very rare for things to slip through the cracks. I like to stay on top of it as much as possible. And for me, like, our ordering is more on like, you're either on like a bi-weekly cadence or like a monthly cadence. So I know that I'm always doing a touch point with each brand at least once a month. So
what about the accessories side? Do you play with that world at all?
Nicole takes care of the accessories. Nicole, our associate buyer, my purchasing partner in crime. But accessories definitely, like, especially towards the holidays, like, we want to make sure we have those in stores. Medusa Distribution has been like a great tool or great company for us to work with, where we're able to get a lot of different accessory brands all at one time. Like, we're able to get Puffco off of there. We could get raw cones off there. It's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, because you don't want to have to go to every single vendor and be like, okay, here's the Puffco vendor, here's the vendor. Is Z's on in your store? The rolling papers? Z's?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Shout out to Z's. But like, always going to support artists, always going to support small brands. So I'm always shouting those guys out. As we start to wrap here, though, are there any other kind of like tips you'd want to give to maybe brands or anybody maybe that's looking at this and thinking to themselves about maybe even getting into bodybuilding or just becoming more fit or something like that? Like, we've obviously covered a wide range of topics, so feel free to kind of like riff a little bit.
Yeah.
But Any last parting kind of advice or anything you want to give people?
For bodybuilding, definitely like it's you versus you every day, and like just keep going. Like don't have the mentality of like, oh, maybe tomorrow. Like just do it. You got to just get into it, and keep the consistency and the discipline, because sometimes the motivation is going to be low, but as long as you have the discipline and consistency, you can keep pushing through.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because you don't realize it sometimes, because you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, nothing's changing, but there are small changes happening, and they build up over time.
For sure.
You look back a year from now, and if you were to look back a year, you'd be like, wow, I've changed a ton, but you didn't notice it in that one moment. So those small changes, due to discipline and consistency, definitely add up.
For sure.
Appreciate your time, Cam. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.